What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the show. Another episode of Seahawks Now. Today, it is mock draft season officially, guys. The NFL draft is coming up on Thursday. So for the next 4 days, all you are going to hear from me is draft. Honestly, for the next couple of weeks, because after the draft, we'll have so much to talk about our new draft picks. But right now, we're talking about the mock drafts. The final CBS mock draft has predicted Matthew Golden to Seattle. Meanwhile, Gray Zabel is being mocked to Seattle by USA Today's final mock draft, and Jihad Campbell coming to the Seahawks, courtesy of The Ringer. So let's decide which of these three potential first-round picks would be the best for Seattle. All right, let's begin with Matthew Golden, guys. If you don't know who Matthew Golden is, he comes out of Texas. A lot of people think this is the best pure wide receiver in the entire draft. 987 yards, 9 touchdowns last year, 61.7 yards per game, 17 yards per attempt, yards per reception, whatever you want to call it, and 58 receiving yards. That is what Matthew Golden was able to do last year. He's not necessarily the highest volume guy, but he is certainly an impressive guy when it comes to yards after catch, when it comes to yards per attempt. He's this type of player who he's going to beat you. He's going to burn you. He's going to make you pay for leaving him wide open. And he gets open really well. He also loves to get in the heads of the opposing defense. He distracts the opposing defense. His NFL.com grade, 6.42. They think he's going to be a good starter within 2 years. His total score, 82, which makes him the 5th best wide receiver in the draft according to NFL.com. But a lot of people think he's actually the best pure receiver in the draft, kind of between him, Ted McMillan, and a little bit of, some people believe Travis Hunter is the best receiver in this draft. Lance Zierlein thinks that he is compared to Chris Olave. That's his NFL comparison. And if you guys don't know, Chris Olave, yeah, he's a really good receiver for the New Orleans Saints. I think that's a fairly good comparison. You know, they're both kind of smaller frame guys, but they both are able to really get open and really put together great seasons. Before he was with Texas, he was with Houston in 2022 and 23. He started 8 games for Houston in 2022, caught 7 touchdowns, went for 584 yards. And then in 2023, he caught 6 touchdowns, started 9 games, went for 321 yards, and then missed the rest of the year with a foot injury. Injuries have not really been an issue for him, though. The issue for him is that he isn't a super high-volume target guy. And so what a lot of people are saying is, whoever takes this guy, Matthew Golden, needs to get the ball to him a lot more than Quinn Ewers got him the ball over in Texas. And that is probably very, very true. That's very accurate because, you know, if Matthew Golden is not a high-volume guy, I'm not sure what his real strength is. Other than, you know, he just turns into kind of an MVS. You know, Marcus Valdes-Scantling is kind of your guy who is going to be that deep route kind of, what do you call it? A home run hitter. You know, he's your home run hitter. And if Matthew Golden comes, you don't want him to just be another MVS. You want him to be another JSN. You want him to be a high-volume guy who can go for 1,000 yards in a season. So far, we haven't seen that out of Matthew Golden. I think we can. I think he can be that guy. I'd love to see him in Seattle. All right, but USA Today, they are projecting at number 18, the Seahawks will draft Gray Zabel. So who is Gray Zabel? If you've never heard of him, we've talked about him before on this channel, but maybe this is your first time watching. By the way, like, subscribe, comment down below. Gray Zabel, offensive tackle out of North Dakota State, comes from Pierre, South Dakota, 6'6", 312 pounds. His athleticism score among tackles, number 2 overall. His production score among tackles, number 1 overall. His total score is also number 1. He's rated as the best tackle in this draft class by NFL Next Gen Stats. He says he's rated 6.34. He'll eventually be a plus starter. They really like Gray Zabel. Lance Zierlein thinks he's a first-round caliber guy. Tough guy profile on this prospect coming out of North Dakota State. NFL frame with room for additional mass. Possesses a good starting point in terms of his play strength. His strengths. He's played 4 of the 5 O-line positions. He's able to unlock his hips and ankles and set a sudden anchor. Quick to pass off twisters and search for incoming traffic. Makes a point to get body on body to seal blocks. Upper and lower body power. Never loses sight of his workup target on combo blocks. His weaknesses. He needs work stabilizing base width in pass sets, more grab than punch in pass protection, too much waist bending and leaning to brace. Short arms create difficulties in sustaining blocks, and his hands get wide and will slide off target as a run blocker. So, yeah, there are some weaknesses, but there is also a ton of strengths to Gray Zabel, and a lot of people really are in on this guy. A lot of people think this guy might be the best lineman in the draft. He kind of turned heads at the Senior Bowl when he was playing center. The Seahawks definitely could use a new center, so I think Gray Zabel would make a whole lot of sense in Seattle. In fact, I would love to see him come to Seattle with the number 18 pick. I do maybe wonder, though, how likely is this for John Schneider's sake? Because we've seen him in the past be very reluctant to draft these linemen in the first round. The last time he did it was Charles Cross. Charles Cross kind of turned out to be a bust. So whether or not the fans want this guy in Seattle, does John Schneider want him in Seattle? That's the real question I think we have to ask before we get too excited about Gray Zabel. But let's continue, guys. The Ringer is projecting Jihad Campbell to the Seahawks at 18. Alabama linebacker Jihad Campbell. I was not as familiar with Jihad Campbell's games until I saw this, but Jihad Campbell's another guy who I think would be a really great fit in Seattle. But let's pull up the stats just to check him out. Last season, he went for 119 tackles, 55 solo tackles. He went for 5 sacks, 2 forced fumbles, and 2 turnovers. One of those was a recovered fumble and one interception. He has the build and traits of an Alabama linebacker, but might need to upgrade in some areas, writes Lance Zierlein. His NFL comparison is Trevin Wallace. His strengths, prototypical height, weight, and musculation. He comes in at 6'3", 235 pounds, with the 4th best athleticism score among linebackers in this draft, but the 1st best total score among linebackers in this draft. With a grade of 6.37, he will eventually be a plus starter. So another guy who they really like. Impressive production in high-impact stat columns. Pursuit speed allows sideline-to-sideline workspace. He breaks down and mirrors backs as an open field tackler. He has burst and workaround ability to threaten as an edge rusher. He gains depth quickly from zone, can cover running backs, quick read and react to challenge the passing lane. Here's his weaknesses. Lacks instincts and plays through a straw. Gets caught behind blocks, will lose contain. Catches contact more than he does out at the point. Needs to attack blocks and constrict his gap, and he allows edge blockers to widen him off the spot. So it seems to me, when reading his strengths and weaknesses, he has so much more potential because his weaknesses are, the mental side of things, right? He's lacking concentration. He's not focusing. He's getting surprised. He's getting caught behind blocks. Lacks instincts. I think those sorts of things could actually be coached, especially with Mike Macdonald as your head coach. Because Mike Macdonald, he's a linebacker guru. He is the guy for linebackers. And so thinking about I'm kind of just salivating, honestly, over having the guy who I think might be the best linebacker in this draft going to go play with the best linebacker coach maybe in the entire league. Because I think a lot of those weaknesses, like the lack of instincts, getting caught off guard, I think those sorts of things can probably be coached out of him. His strengths, though, are really, really impressive. I mean, Lance Zierlein says he's rangy, consistent open field tackler. He excels on third downs. He's a good blitzer. He has impressive cover talent. Elite traits, athletic talent is tantalizing. The best way to utilize him might be as a full-time 3-4 rush linebacker where he can play more proactively instead of as an off-ball linebacker. But he can rush the passer. He can play defense. He can play in coverage. He can do anything. He can do anything you ask him to. And that is what makes Jihad Campbell such an enticing option at number 18. But personally, if I had to choose between these three, I would actually go with Gray Zabel. That's who I'm going with, Gray Zabel. If I had to pick between these three, and the reason why I would go with Gray Zabel is just because, again, I think offensive line is something that we really, really need right now. I think that our O-line has been bad for years. Gray Zabel is the best tackle available in this draft. I think he would really change the trajectory of the offensive line for potentially literally years to come. With that all being said, I will see you guys tomorrow. And as always, until next time, go Seahawks.